A lot of growers think that harvest is the finish line, and it is not. It is where good cannabis can reach its full potential, or it doesn't. Come on, let's get into it. Hasi, come on. You ever made it to the finish line only to be disappointed by your end results?
You know, I don't know if I would say a lot of growers think that harvest is a finish line, but I definitely thought that was where I needed to go and I was done.
Man, I've had beautiful buds before, and then I have definitely ruined it in the drying and curing process. And I honestly, like I said, I've been doing this, I think, 30 years, and I never understood the chemistry behind it. So thank you, everybody. You challenged me, and I think I know this enough to explain it simply. Let's get into it, man.
But before we do,
come on, man. This video is brought to you by Real Grow Lab. If you are done taking advice from random growers online, you have got to check out Real Grow Lab or realgrowlab.com. It is our own private community with actual experienced growers. Get great advice that actually helps your plants. Come on, go over to realgrowlab.com. We are on the app stores. And come on, let's get into it, man. This one should get some conversation going over there.
Well, you got me thinking because you said, look, you don't eat a banana right after you pick it.
Yes, this is me at the grocery store on weed, which is dangerous. You shouldn't do that. I'm looking at the green bananas, though, and I'm just, this week I'm harvesting, and I'm like, dude, that's exactly what it's like for, that's a plant, and bud is, the buds that you're pulling off. That's the fruit of the plant. And it's very similar, man. When you taste the green banana, if you eat it,
it's all starchy.
Yeah, it's starchy, and all starch is just chains of sugars. We talk about the whole glucose. That's the plant assembling itself. It's so crazy how it works, man. How it's just like a storage device for sunlight. The plant is taking CO2 and basically water or whatever. It's making that sugar, that glucose, and that's the storage device for a rainy day, man. Anyway, but that is, you wouldn't take a green banana and eat it right away, right?
No, you let it sit for a couple of days.
Yes, because there's sugars that need to be broken down in there. What do we talk about? The ones we talk about are glucose, and that's the plant takes water, hydrogen and oxygen, water, and combines it, bakes it with carbon, and makes that plant material out of it. Well, we want to break that back down. It's such a trip, man. The plant builds it, and then after harvest, it wants to start breaking it down. And what we can get it to break down to, if we're careful, is CO2 and water. And those both evaporate, and I got really clean smoke at that point. So that's the big deal, and it's huge, man. It's the difference between having good tasting cannabis and lousy tasting stuff.
The way I was thinking about it was like a factory.
Yeah.
While the factory is open, I want to use all the energy to produce.
Photosynthesis. I'm jumping, but that's photosynthesis. The plant's, growing. There's pulling in carbon. It is making that sugar, that glucose, which is what the plant runs on. It's making that out of hydrogen and oxygen and carbon and using the plant to combine it together. Heck yeah.
But then if I'm going to sell the factory,
shut it down. There ain't no new deliveries coming in, man.
Yeah, but if I'm going to sell it in 2 weeks, the new owner takes over. I've got 2 more weeks worth of payroll. I want them to know, hey, we're going to stop inputs, stopped. No more stuff is coming in. Instead of producing, now we need to tear the plant down so that when the new owner takes ownership, there's not all this mess still in here.
Agreed, man. So what do we want to do? We want to take the last bit of fuel. We're going to be smoking fuel, man. Take that last bit of fuel and tell the workers to clean up. So what are they going to do? They're going to break that glucose down. They're going to make it into CO2 and water, and then they're going to use that as energy. And that energy is used to drive those enzymes that clean up the broken chlorophyll. And that chlorophyll is what's going to give you the bad taste. That's what you want to break down. So you leave the energy in the cell to power the enzymes to break down, whether it's chlorophyll or there's broken old cells. There's those reactive oxygenated species, and all. It's just stuff that's going to oxidize the plant, which we don't want. We want to keep that molecule pristine. So yeah, we just want to break that stuff down and clean up the cell. And that's why you need some moisture in there, because all that happens when, everything living needs moisture to operate.
I think of, if you dry too fast, it's like yanking payroll too quick and the workers just stop working. You want to continue the drying process as long as possible.
Yeah.
Keep that water in there, some of that water in there.
Yes, definitely. And that's it. There's, you've probably heard me talk about, they call it bound water and unbound water. And this is key. All right. There's the cell, and the cell has that's where all this enzymatic activity is going on. We need to keep that thing hydrated. We need to keep that cell hydrated so that continues to go on. What we need to dry out initially is all the space between those cells, because that's free water. They call it unbound water. That water's easily able to escape. That's where you get your molds and mildews from when you're drying. So, yeah, that's why you got to be careful. But the idea is to control the release of that unbound water slow enough so that that bound water inside the cell still keeps all that activity going and all that breakdown going.
That's why I don't just throw my buds in an air dryer and dry them out overnight.
No, because what's that going to do? You're going to end up dehydrating that cell. Whatever is in there stays in there, and all that stuff we were talking about that's not going to taste good. It's never going to go away now. You don't have the enzymes to clean it up that are powered by the glucose sugar that we made. The plant assembled itself. Now we got to give it time to disassemble itself.
Okay. And I hear people talk about during the drying process, throwing it in their tent or their room that they've got cool and dark or whatever.
Yeah.
They're aiming for 60-60. That seems to be the magic number.
As the Canatrol guys have taught me, I had them on the show a couple times, and they work with dew point, because 60 degrees and 60% humidity, what's the word in front of humidity? Relative, because it's relative to the temperature. So you can have 60-60. I tell you what, I'll introduce dew point. Dew point uses temperature and humidity to give you an exact number where dew is going to form, where it's going to be 100% humid. So it uses that, so it'll tell you. So 60-60, 60% humidity, 60 degrees, gives you a dew point around 45. So at 45 degrees, the air is going to be 100% saturated. So that's really cool to work with. That 70-40, guess what the dew point is? 45. It's right. It's very
I've
similar.
heard people say shoot for 70-40, but I've heard that you don't get as good results for some reason.
Man, it has to do now with oxidation. And that is, we talk about oxygen touching the molecules, and it can change them. It can pull electrons out or attach an oxygen molecule to a cannabinoid or a terpene, and it changes the flavor. I think about THC oxidizing to CBN. That's the sleepy cannabinoid. And THC is the one we want. So you have to be careful of oxidization too. So now I got to worry about unbound water and temperature and humidity, and then comparing that or weighing that against oxidization. And that's really dangerous there,
Yeah, the 70-40 appealed to me because it is difficult to keep my drying room at 60 degrees.
Yeah, man, I tell you though, that dew point is what I think is really important. And the idea is the longer you can keep some water in those cells, that bound water in those cells, the more it gets to work. Those more those enzymes get to work and clean it up and make it taste just great. The difference between properly dried and cured weed and quick dried weed is huge, man. And that's because all the stuff that you are still smoking in there, like I said, the starch and the sugars that the plant makes, the glucose, and if you Google cornstarch and corn sugar, they're made out of glucose, or I guess corn sugar is anyway, right? Corn syrup, all right? Don't get me into the sugar cycle, all right?
Okay, so you said it's important to time it, give it enough time. If I'm in a grow tent or in a room, how long am I wanting to let my dry go?
Okay, so what we talked about, the longer you can, most of this enzymatic activity happens within the first few days when you're drying. After you're curing, you've got the little bit of moisture left in there. It's the residual. So that's why if you can keep as much moisture in there as possible for, it's relative, but if you can keep the plants to where they're slowly drying 7 days, 10 days, they have a nice long window for all that enzymatic activity to happen. Now, I've done it in 4 days. People are probably throwing stuff at their, maybe throwing their phones or whatever device they're watching on. I've done it then. The important thing that I did was I got it in the cure buckets fast enough to keep that enzymatic activity going. The Canatrol does it. I can't remember if it's 3 or 4 days, but it does it very slowly, but very quickly. The most important thing is it keeps a steady dew point, and then as soon as it is ready, it switches it into the cure mode. So you don't oxidize all those terpenes and cannabinoids, the secondary metabolites. You work so hard to grow.
Okay, and speaking of terpenes and cannabinoids,
sure,
I got those are all packed in my trichomes.
Yeah.
When I'm drying and curing, at what point do I start having those trichomes volatilize off? Just so I have a good idea of not to go above this temperature.
Yeah, I mean, they will start to volatilize off at very low temperatures, I think in the 60s, some of them, but it's a scale. You know what I mean? In the mid to high 60s, when you go into your grow room, even if it's 68, 69, you can still smell something, but it's a scale and it goes exponentially up. So when you go into the 80s or, into the 90s and you walk into a room and it's so loud, those are the terpenes that are just volatilizing off very quickly. So the idea is you want to slow that down as much as possible without causing mildew. So you want to get that unbound water out, and you want to keep that bound water in to keep the enzymatic activity happening for as long as possible.
Well, I've walked into a dry where it was at 70.
Sure.
It just blasted me in the face.
Yeah.
And that's immediately what I thought was now all those trichomes are no longer on the plant.
The secondary metabolites, yeah, it's escaped the trichome. And that's the thing is, it's a scale, ready? It's a gradient, man. They have them as boiling points. And the closer you get to the boiling point, we've all boiled water before, but as it's steaming, as it's almost boiling, it's still losing a lot, right? So yeah, these terpenes volatilize off. When you go into a grow room and you smell it, those are the terpenes volatilizing off. We're not going to reach perfection, you know what I mean? 100%, no volatilization, but let's minimize it. And I certainly don't want to lose it in the dry.
Okay, so where is the ideal temp, and then I can adjust my humidity from there when I'm trying to dry out at that good happy medium.
Yeah,
range.
I mean, theoretically, there's nothing wrong with 60-60, except that it's really hard to achieve.
Yeah.
If you can keep it in the 60s and right around that 45 dew point, and by the way, you can just yell it into your phone, what's the dew point at this temperature and humidity? But right around 45, I think, is a good rule of thumb. And then as far as the Canatrol works a little bit higher. Let's see what it's at, right? Dude, it's at 68 degrees with a 53 dew point, man. It's pretty interesting how it is so different. But whether it's a Canatrol, they're north of $1,000, or I'm looking at the grow tent here that cost me $650 before I put anything else into it. So I don't know, it's going to cost you a little bit of money for.
They have ACs just for a grow tent now, right?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's going to cost you $1,000 if you get a 2x4 tent with an AC. But you have, or maybe even a 4x4 you could probably get for that price. But dude, you have yourself the ideal drying and curing environment, and
you don't have to cool the entire house.
Yeah.
Freeze your roommates or your spouse out.
Yep.
Okay, so it might be worth the extra money to go with the AC or to go with the Canatrol.
Yeah, and I think it does have to do with scale. The Canatrol holds, a small amount compared to if you were to get a 4x4 tent with an AC or something like that. So, yeah, but just take it seriously. If you take it seriously and you spend as much as you probably have in your grow, or, I don't know, spend a G on drying and curing. It's something that's not for the very beginner maybe or whatever, but shit, save up for Christmas, man. Hey, but that is just me. I think it is worth the investment to finish my harvest right. But what about you? How do you dry and cure? Come on, let me know in the comments. And if you dug this video, please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. Share this one with a grower you know that is terrible at drying. And check out the other couple of videos YouTube's recommended. We think you'll dig them.